first Career Labs podcast. I'm Dan O'Neill.
And I'm Dan Fleming. So first, we're going to talk about what Career Labs is, in our opinion, and then why we started this venture. So to me, Career Labs is really about a service offering right now, helping people develop a successful career for themselves. That has a couple of components. One is, how do you think about and define for yourself a successful career? That can mean different things to different people. And then the second aspect, more practical, is how can you find a good job, in quotes, for yourself, and think about that job in the context of what would be that successful career.
When I was in my 20s, I really had no good way of thinking of what a career would be for me as it lay ahead of me. And I've learned a lot along the way in the subsequent years. And Career Labs to me is really a way to pass along those learnings to people who are at the beginning of their career.
Many years I've been thinking about this, and it was my personal experience through life that demonstrated that career management guidance and help was a real need. So I experienced that need looking for jobs for myself, whether it was out of college or subsequently in the many years I've been in my own career trajectory or my own career path. So it was my personal experience looking for a job. During my career, I've had the responsibility to look over thousands of resumes and interview hundreds of people for jobs. And through that process, I realized that some career guidance and management could be a service that would be well received by other people and was a need if they didn't even realize it. The third aspect of why I wanted to start Career Labs was relative to privilege, which has become a more common term out in the world these days. So I think certain people get access to information and knowledge and relationships and networks and jobs based on where they come from, what their educational experience is, who their family is, what connections they have. And so I thought Career Labs could help level the playing field a bit and help people who don't quite have the same privilege as others get access to key elements that would help them find a job. And then the last thing was, I've done recently in the last few years, I've done a lot of volunteer work and talking to people looking for jobs just through networking, really. And most recently, the feedback has been really positive from those people that, hey, what you're talking about, Dan, is helpful. And if I don't say so myself, this is the feedback from others. It's been helpful. So that's really part of the reasons why I wanted to start it. Along with, most importantly, I actually enjoy it, what I've been doing so far. And the enjoyment comes from, for me, I've been able to meet a bunch of people and learn about different people and different perspectives, which I find interesting and fun. The other thing is I can make use, hopefully, of past mistakes. So, instead of feeling really bad about a time I've bombed an interview, I can instead look, hey, maybe I can some way have this bad experience can be helpful to someone else if they know about it. And the third thing is on why I enjoy it is I think it helps alleviate stress, for me talking to new people. But I think when people are looking for jobs, thinking about a career, they often experience a lot of stress when they don't necessarily need to experience stress at all, but certainly not. They can minimize it by being more prepared with the information that we can provide them. So that's really why I was excited to start Career Labs and why I enjoy it.
I'm currently the chief financial officer of a semiconductor company that's based in San Jose, California. So just a little bit of background on what a chief financial officer actually does is it's the person within a company that broadly has responsibility for all finance and accounting activities of that company. And there's quite a breadth of different areas of responsibility that come into play there. I kind of break them into two different camps. One is internal, which is the internal accounting activities, the financial planning activities, things such as treasury and cash management are all internal activities that I ultimately have responsibility for. And then the other is external facing. So this is investors. Our company has a large number of investors in it. So I'm ultimately responsible to them. I answer to them. They have questions about our financial performance. They come to me for that, and I'm ultimately responsible to them. We have external auditors. We have banking relationships. There are other external relationships, which I also maintain and kind of nurture over the course of time.
So right now I work for myself. I provide consulting services, which is a very broad term. It's almost as broad as entrepreneur. So I'm a consultant, and what I do is I give advice to companies who are looking to raise money to help grow their business, or are considering selling their business, or maybe buying another business. I'm very targeted. My clients are technology companies, principally, just because it's a competitive field and there are a lot of people like me. And so you got to focus somewhere. Instead of focusing on consumer goods, I focus on tech companies. My background has been really in technology investment banking at small firms and larger firms, and consulting. I've also spent a few years working at various technology companies in business development and corporate development roles. And I realize these terms are broad and mean a lot of different things. I kind of found myself in this career path. I wasn't as perhaps thoughtful and directed as I could have been. I got a job, and then it eventually morphed into what I'm doing today, 20 years later.
I went to school as an electrical engineer. So my first job out of engineering school was as a circuit designer, and for a large company, for AT&T. At the time, this is the late 80s, early 90s, AT&T had a large number of factories spread throughout the United States. There was a circuit design team based in Allentown, Pennsylvania that I joined right out of college. After about a year in that role, I realized that maybe this isn't for me. I would say I was a pretty good or okay circuit designer, but I wasn't a great one. I wasn't going to become a great one. Perhaps I didn't have the passion for that I might have had for other things. So I left that particular department and moved to another department that had more of an operations focus within AT&T.
Went to college, didn't know what I wanted to study. I just knew that I wanted to go to college, graduate, get a good job in business, and make money. So I went to school as a liberal arts school. They didn't have a business major, as some schools do, or finance. So I studied economics, which I thought was the closest thing. Many of my classmates got jobs in investment banking coming out of undergraduate school, which investment banking, I didn't even really know what that meant. It means a lot of different things, by the way. I didn't know what it meant, but it paid a lot, and a lot of people were excited about it. So I ended up trying to get a job straight out of college in investment banking. I interviewed for a bunch of jobs in banking as well as related jobs. Wasn't successful. Graduated college without a job. That summer, I painted houses and bartended. And I ended up getting a job in finance my first job, professional job, was at Fidelity in Boston. I was answering the phone when people would call wanting to buy mutual funds or stocks. I would answer the phone and help them buy it.
That led me to decide to go back and get an MBA, which I then did. And then coming out of school with my MBA, I kind of stuck to my knitting. I went back to a semiconductor company. The part of AT&T I had worked for was obviously a semiconductor company, since I was designing chips. I moved to California, and I joined a small, fast-growing, publicly traded semiconductor company. So it was an exciting time to join. Anytime you have a high company growth, it tends to be an exciting time. as long as the challenges that come with high growth are exciting to you. Yet another thing to understand about yourself and your own personality.
I kept looking for jobs while I was at Fidelity. That was a great move for me, it turned out at the time, because it was, a bump in pay. And I really enjoyed a lot of aspects of investment banking. But I didn't love the job intrinsically. So I subsequently decided, as most people in investment banking do, to go off to grad school and get an MBA. And I went to Stanford to get my MBA. I was fortunate enough to go to that place. It was a great school. I figured, well, I didn't love investment banking that much, but it was great and it helped me pay some bills. I got a ton of graduate school debt. What am I going to do now? Maybe I'll join a tech company. I'm out in the middle of Silicon Valley. Couldn't find the right tech company to join. Long story short, I didn't know exactly what to do. So I went back to investment banking, got a promotion because I now had an MBA.
After 5 years of that company, I then took a job in a software company. I was there for about a year. This is right at the beginning of the .com boom, which went bust in 2000. One thing I quickly learned about myself with that job is that I didn't like the software industry as much as the semiconductor industry. From a finance perspective, you have different challenges in different industries. And I liked some of the challenges that I faced within the semiconductor industry. One of those challenges is understanding cost accounting, understanding inventory management, things of that nature. So after a year in a software company, I went back to another semiconductor company, one that was smaller but growing. It was private and about a year away from becoming a public company. And that company had, tremendous growth for a number of years. So I was there for 7 years. And as I said, how much I learned that I enjoy the growth of a company and tackling the challenges that come with that growth. I really enjoyed that job tremendously.
And I got to see a lot of tech companies. And I thought these tech companies, who were my investment banking clients, might be great companies for me to join one day. Turns out I never found the right one to join for various reasons, economics, personality fit, et cetera, et cetera. And so I went off on my own about 10 years ago when I decided to leave investment banking, because I didn't love it that much, to do what I wanted to do on my own. And so I've been here for the last 10 years doing my own consulting business here in the Boston, Massachusetts area. And it's fun, and it gives me the ability. It's a good job to me, not because it maximizes my income, but it gives me a good ability to pay my bills. And then also, because I work for myself, I kind of call my own shots.
Right.
There are pros and cons, but it's good for me, and it gives me the time, because I report to myself and my clients, but to myself really, to work in Career Labs. So I think that's one thing in Career Labs is to help people understand perspective of, one, you're going to learn a lot over your career. As you mentioned, Dan, you may find yourself 5 years from now somewhere where you never expected to be. Another thing you mentioned was you realized you weren't going to be a great circuit designer. So I think in Career Labs, we'll help people understand that in order to have what you think is a good job, you probably need to do it pretty well. I think people I personally get a lot of satisfaction if I do a good job. When you take on a job, it's really hard to do it as well as someone else in a competitive environment. And let's face it, the professional world's competitive. It's hard to do a job as well as someone else if they really like it and you don't. So it's like being an athlete. If you love basketball, you're probably going to be willing to practice it. And practice is what it takes to be a better basketball player. If you really dislike basketball, you may be very tall and super athletic, but you're probably not going to be as good as the player who really loves the game.
So what makes a good career? One of the things I look at is there are really 3 ingredients that are critical to having a successful career. You can think of them as 3 legs of a stool, right? One of those legs is you need to be good at what you're doing. And a derivative of that is you need to have a passion for it. If you're good at it and you really love doing it, those are two very important legs of that stool. And then the third leg of the stool is really there needs to be a market for what you're doing. So all those ingredients together are really foundational in terms of building your career. If, for instance, there's no market for what you have a passion for and what you're good at, that's really a hobby for you. It's not going to be a profession because you're not going to make a living from it. So, and if you're very good at something and there's a market, but you don't have a passion for it, then it really kind of falls into the territory of being a good job for you. But it's not something that you're going to be engaged with over a long period of time in all likelihood because you don't have that passion for it.
The other thing I would say about a good career, a successful career, a lot of it's how you define it. So, for example, how you define a successful career and how I define a successful career could be very different. So, for me personally, a successful career could be one that enables me to pay off my student loans, support my children, and build a retirement for myself. Another person might say, my successful career is I go to my job every day and I love it, just doing the work. I'm an artist. I didn't go to grad school. I happen to have no children. I won the lottery, so I don't need to worry about retirement. But for me, a successful career as an artist is I get to do something I love, and periodically people tell me how great my art is, whether they pay me a lot for it or not. So a lot of it is your own spin on what a successful career is. When people ask me when I was younger what I want to be when I grow up, when I was a young kid, I wanted to be a linebacker for the Oakland Raiders. But then I realized that wasn't going to work out. So then people said to me, what do you want to be? When I was a teenager, I wanted to be a rock star. And I had my parents buy me a guitar. But I didn't practice it. I didn't really know where to start or how to go about it. I didn't have lessons in the internal drive to really pursue guitar because I wanted to be Eddie Van Halen.
We'll be releasing a series of podcasts over the coming weeks, so come back, often. The next one we're going to release is called, How to Find a Good Job. We will help you really think about some of the criteria that you should evaluate when looking for your next job. After that, we're going to have podcasts focus on interviewing, on networking, on how to craft the right resume to get the job, the next good job for you. And then we're going to transition to some podcasts that like keys to success in the job, things of that nature. So come back often, like us, and we hope to really contribute to your long-term success.
One of my first professional jobs, the head guy told me something very important. He said, Dan, there'll always be someone richer than you and thinner than you. That wasn't his original quote, but that was always I always found that to be a piece of advice that I still remember to this day. The point I took of it was, don't necessarily aspire to be someone you're not. Aspire to be, don't look at others, look inward and say, okay, what could I realistically do and where can I get to and how do I want to get there? So less about being jealous of what others have and more instead focusing on how to take your current position and improve upon it.